Welcome back to Best Product Reviews. Are you serious about competitive gaming? Then you need to see this. Today, we're counting down the top 5 best 240Hz monitors in 2026. If you're gaming at 60 or even 144Hz, you're missing out on the ultra-smooth, incredibly responsive experience that 240Hz delivers. That higher refresh rate gives you a genuine competitive edge in fast-paced games, making every movement feel instantaneous. Whether you're into esports, first-person shooters, or just want the smoothest gaming possible, we've got options for every budget. From affordable entry-level displays to premium OLED powerhouses, we've done all the testing to find the perfect 240Hz monitor for you. Let's jump in. At number 5, we have the ViewSonic XG2431. If you want to experience 240Hz gaming on a tight budget, this is your entry point. This is a 24-inch IPS monitor with a 1080p resolution. The lower resolution and smaller screen mean images are less detailed compared to 1440p or 4K displays. However, there's a huge advantage here. With 1080p resolution, your graphics card can maintain that 240 FPS frame rate much more easily. You don't need a monster GPU to hit high frame rates at this resolution. The smaller 24-inch screen means gaming doesn't feel quite as immersive as larger displays, but it's perfectly fine for solo competitive gaming. Many esports pros actually prefer 24-inch monitors for the tighter field of view. What makes this monitor stand out from other budget displays is its consistently great motion handling at any refresh rate. Response time scores 8.1 out of 10, which is impressive for the price. There's minimal motion blur behind fast-moving objects, giving you that clarity you need in competitive games. The real standout feature is the customizable backlight strobing, which reduces persistence blur even further. You can actually adjust the flicker to your personal preference, which is a rare feature for a budget monitor. This gives you incredibly sharp motion that helps in fast-paced shooters. However, the backlight strobing doesn't work at the same time as VRR, so you'll need to choose between strobing for maximum motion clarity or VRR for tear-free gaming. The monitor supports both FreeSync and G-Sync compatibility, so when you're not using strobing, you still get adaptive sync to eliminate screen tearing. PC gaming scores 7.2 out of 10, which is solid for an entry-level display. Brightness scores 7.5, making it decent for moderately lit rooms. HDR performance is limited, scoring only 4.6, but that's expected at this price point. You're buying this for competitive gaming performance, not HDR visuals. For budget-conscious competitive gamers who want 240Hz speed without spending a fortune, the ViewSonic XG2431 delivers exceptional value. The combination of fast response times and customizable backlight strobing makes it punch well above its weight class. For updated pricing and more details, check out the links in the description.
Next up is the LG 27GR83Q-B. Stepping into the lower mid-range category, this monitor offers more screen space and better resolution. This is a 27-inch IPS panel with a 2560 by 1440 resolution and a native 240Hz refresh rate. The jump to 27 inches and 1440p makes a noticeable difference. Images are significantly sharper and more detailed, and you get more screen real estate for both gaming and productivity. Response time scores 7.6 out of 10, which is fast enough for most gamers. Motion looks good at any refresh rate with minimal blur, though it's not quite as fast as the more expensive ASUS above it. You'll see slightly more blur and fast motion compared to premium options. The monitor is G-Sync compatible, so it works well with NVIDIA graphics cards for tear-free gaming. While it doesn't have the extra features you'd get with native G-Sync support, the basics work flawlessly. One advantage this monitor has is HDMI 2.1 bandwidth support, meaning you can reach the full 240Hz refresh rate over both HDMI and DisplayPort connections. This gives you flexibility in how you connect your PC or console. PC gaming scores 7.2 out of 10, which is respectable. Although this monitor doesn't have many extra bells and whistles, it includes typical gaming perks, like a virtual crosshair that your game's anti-cheat tool won't detect. This is handy for shooters. Brightness scores 7.7 out of 10, making it suitable for moderately lit rooms. The IPS panel delivers good colors and wide viewing angles. However, HDR performance is limited at 5.0 out of 10 due to the lack of local dimming and low contrast ratio. This is primarily a gaming monitor, not an HDR powerhouse. The main trade-off compared to higher-end options is that picture quality isn't as stunning.
You don't get those perfect blacks or infinite contrast that OLEDs provide, but for the price, it's a solid performer. For gamers who want 1440p sharpness, 27-inch screen size, and 240Hz speed without breaking the bank, the LG 27GR83Q-B is worth grabbing on sale. For updated pricing and more details, check out the links in the description.
Keeping it going with the ASUS ROG Swift PG27QM. Moving into the mid-range category, this monitor brings native G-Sync support. Like the LG, this is a 27-inch 1440p IPS monitor with a 240Hz refresh rate. However, what sets this apart is native G-Sync rather than just G-Sync compatibility. If you have an NVIDIA graphics card, native G-Sync gives you extra features like variable overdrive, which automatically adjusts a monitor's overdrive setting based on your current refresh rate. This optimizes motion clarity across different frame rates. Another exclusive feature is NVIDIA Reflex Latency Analyzer, which measures the latency of each component in your gaming setup. This is incredibly useful for competitive gamers who want to minimize every millisecond of input lag. Response time scores 7.9 out of 10, which is consistently fast at any refresh rate. Motion looks sharp with less blur compared to the LG, making fast-paced games feel more responsive. However, there's still more blur compared to OLED screens, which is the trade-off for not spending premium money. The IPS panel delivers good colors and viewing angles, though it lacks the perfect blacks of OLED displays. PC gaming scores 7.5 out of 10, which is solid mid-range performance. One limitation to be aware of, this monitor doesn't support HDMI 2.1 bandwidth. You'll need to use a DisplayPort connection to take full advantage of the 240Hz refresh rate. HDMI connections will be limited to lower refresh rates. If HDMI 2.1 bandwidth is important to you, the LG 27G850A-B is worth considering. It has HDMI 2.1 and even includes a 480Hz mode with 1080p resolution, though it usually costs more. Brightness scores 7.5 out of 10, adequate for most lighting conditions. HDR performance is limited at 6.2 out of 10, but that's not the focus here. For NVIDIA users who want native G-Sync features, variable overdrive, and reflex latency analyzer at a mid-range price, the ASUS ROG Swift PG27QM is an excellent choice that optimizes performance with Team Green hardware. For updated pricing and more details, check out the links in the description.
The runner-up is the LG 27GX700A-B. Welcome to OLED territory, and things get seriously impressive here. This 27-inch OLED monitor features a 2560 by 1440 resolution with a native 280Hz refresh rate. Now, 280Hz is slightly faster than 240Hz, but it still performs exceptionally well at 240Hz if you want to cap it there. What makes OLED technology special is the near instantaneous response time at any refresh rate. Response time scores 9.8 out of 10, which is essentially perfect. Motion looks incredibly sharp with virtually no blur behind fast-moving objects. This is a massive improvement over IPS panels and provides a genuine competitive advantage. Input lag is also impressively low at any refresh rate, so your actions translate to the screen with minimal delay. PC gaming scores an excellent 9.1 out of 10. This monitor uses the 4th-generation RGB tandem WOLED panel, which is a newer OLED technology. The key advantage is brightness. It gets much brighter than traditional OLED displays, scoring 7.8 out of 10 for brightness. This makes it better suited for well-lit rooms compared to older OLEDs. Highlights really pop in HDR content, and it fights glare effectively. However, there are some trade-offs compared to the QOLED at number 1. This monitor is less accurate in HDR, prioritizing brightness over color accuracy. If you switch to a more accurate picture mode, it gets dimmer. Colors also aren't quite as vivid as QOLED panels. You won't get that same level of color saturation. HDR picture quality scores 9.2 out of 10, and SDR scores 9.9, which are both excellent. The lower 1440p resolution requires less bandwidth from your graphics card to hit high frame rates. This means you can more easily maintain 200+ FPS without needing an absolute top-tier GPU. It also lacks DisplayPort 2.1 bandwidth like the premium ASUS. However, this doesn't really matter because you can still reach 240Hz and even 280Hz without any compression over standard DisplayPort. For gamers who want OLED motion clarity, high brightness for well-lit rooms, and don't need the absolute highest resolution, the LG 27GX700A-B is an outstanding upper mid-range choice that delivers premium performance. For updated pricing and more details, check out the links in the description.
And the best one is the ASUS ROG Swift OLED PG27 UDCM.
This is the absolute king of 240Hz monitors, and it earns the top spot without question. The ASUS ROG Swift OLED PG27 UDCM is a premium 27-inch QD-OLED powerhouse with a native 4K resolution of 3840 by 2160 and a 240Hz refresh rate. This monitor offers high-end performance and outstanding picture quality across every metric. Let's start with the resolution. At 4K with 240Hz, you need a premium gaming setup to take full advantage. We're talking high-end graphics cards like RTX 4090 or similar. But if you have the hardware, the experience is absolutely breathtaking. The 27-inch screen combined with 4K resolution results in incredibly high pixel density. Images and text are razor-sharp with exceptional detail. You can see every texture, every element in your games with perfect clarity. What makes this such an amazing gaming monitor is the near instantaneous response time. Response time scores an incredible 9.9 out of 10, which is essentially perfect. This results in minimal motion blur with fast-moving objects. Combined with 240Hz, motion clarity is about as good as it gets. PC gaming scores 9.1 out of 10, which is outstanding. The monitor supports full bandwidth for both HDMI 2.1 and DisplayPort 2.1, which is crucial. DisplayPort 2.1 is necessary to achieve 4K at 240Hz without compression. This future-proofs your setup for next-generation graphics cards. Now, let's talk about that QD-OLED picture quality, because it's genuinely stunning. QD-OLED combines the perfect blacks and infinite contrast of OLED with the vivid, saturated colors of quantum dot technology. In dark rooms, you get deep, inky blacks without any blooming or light bleed. When pixels are off, they're completely off. HDR picture quality scores an impressive 9.4 out of 10, and SDR scores a perfect 10 out of 10. The monitor gets bright enough for colors to look incredibly vivid and for highlights to pop in HDR content. It creates a fantastic HDR gaming experience that's among the best available. It even supports Dolby Vision, which is rare on gaming monitors, and provides enhanced HDR with compatible content. However, there are considerations with QD-OLED panels. Black levels rise in bright rooms, making blacks look slightly purple rather than pure black. The glossy screen can also show reflections in bright environments. Brightness scores 7.2 out of 10, which is good but not the highest. This monitor performs best in dark or controlled lighting environments. If you primarily game in a very bright room, the LG at number 2 might be better suited. If you want a bigger screen and don't mind sacrificing DisplayPort 2.1, the ASUS ROG Swift OLED PG32 UDCM is a 32-inch version that performs similarly. The ASUS ROG Swift OLED PG27 UDCM is simply the best 240Hz gaming monitor money can buy in 2026. The combination of 4K resolution, QD-OLED picture quality, near instantaneous response time, DisplayPort 2.1 support, and exceptional gaming performance makes it the ultimate choice for enthusiasts who want the absolute best. For updated pricing and more details, check out the links in the description.
Thanks for watching. That's our top 5 best 240Hz monitors for 2026. From budget-friendly 1080p options to premium 4K OLED displays, 240Hz gaming has never been more accessible or impressive. That ultra-high refresh rate truly transforms how games feel, giving you smoother motion and faster response times that make a real difference in competitive play. If this video helped you choose your next 240Hz monitor, hit that like button and subscribe to Best Product Reviews. Drop a comment below with which monitor you're going for or any questions you have. All product links with the latest pricing are in the description. Thanks again for watching and enjoy that buttery smooth 240Hz gaming experience.